town. They have arrived. What? They're all around. So many aliens living in your town. Are you scared?
Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? I've been listening to a lot of podcasts lately, and I've noticed everybody kind of talks like this when they do a podcast. So I'm going to be talking like this the entire show today.
That's how they talk in NPR, too.
How's everybody doing?
Great.
All right, very good.
I love NPR.
Vicky, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I've noticed so many people
That's very much how they do it.
on podcasts, especially those murderous podcasts. So the woman was walking to the store, and she can't believe it, but she's dead now. Like, that's how they talk. It's so funny. We're a little bit raw here on the Weird and Whatever podcast. How's everybody doing today?
Doing swell.
Wednesday came fast this week, it seems.
Doing well.
Yeah, guys.
Drinking beers again.
Yeah, calm down. You guys are perfect for the podcast tone. It's very good. I do want to talk about a little bit about the social media position we had talked about. It has been filled. We've got somebody to do that. Thank you to everybody who has reached out to us. We know a lot of people want to get involved with the Weird and Whatever podcast. Vicky, you had a great idea in our pre-show meeting. Anybody that would like to get involved, what can they do, and what are you going to offer to kind of, fill that void?
Well, I think we can offer them a couple of different options. Number one is they can do a tag-along on an investigation. And also, I'm thinking about doing some meetups and inviting people out, some fans of the show to come out and, maybe do a psychic workshop with me.
Okay, what would entail in a psychic workshop?
I would just give them some pointers on how to open themselves up to their ability that we
Okay.
all have.
Is there anything you could give the audience right now? Let's say you're listening and you're like, all right, I kind of want to do it, but I kind of don't trust it. What is this witchcraft? What's something you could kind of say to the people? This is something you could do at home to try to open up your gifts.
Actually, the thing that I recommend the most is not like any kind of exercise, is that when something comes into your head, your first impression, don't talk yourself out of it. Just literally, like I've mentioned before, I play like a little game with my team members on an investigation. I will ask a series of questions related to what I think is related to the haunt, and my investigators they have like 20 seconds to answer. In other words, they can't think about it. It's whatever the first thing that flies off their tongue. And if they take too long, I don't you're out. I don't count it, because our intuition is way more in tune, but we talk ourselves out of it. So people just need to say it and declare it and just say the first thing that pops off your head.
Interesting theory. Denny, I'd like to get your take on this. Okay, gut feelings, first instincts. Do you think they're always right, or do you think some people have those kind of things and they could be crazy?
I mean, it's a tough question.
Well,
I'm just, I think gut instincts are good because they are your gut instinct. And I mean, you feel it carnally, just you're ingrained with that from birth. You just have that. So I think you should follow it to a T. But sometimes you could confuse like a nervous feeling for a nervous energy give off, or confuse that with something dangerous as well.
Only reason why I bring that up is because I remember there was this one girl who said, I always trust my first instinct. I always trust the woman's intuition. And I remember she would say that. She lived by that. And 90% of the time, her intuition was so wrong.
Right.
It was proven wrong, and she'd even say it was wrong. So I've heard people say, always trust your intuition. When do you trust it? When do you bail on it? Beckett, you're very quiet.
Well, you just got to be objective and look to the facts. Sometimes you got to have a balance. It's a hybrid model. There's certain instinctual things that come in that you shouldn't ignore, but don't ignore the facts. Too many people. We talked about praying, and does praying work? Well, it works, but you also got to put in the work, right? Then what's the balance? You can't just pray it and just.
You just can't ask for things.
Our gut feelings 100%, Vicky.
No, they're not 100%, but going back to the woman that said, I always trust my gut feeling, we don't know what's actually going on in her head.
Agreed.
She may say that that's the first thing and that's her gut. She may have talked herself into a different scenario
for sure by
the time it actually came out of her mouth or she acted
Sometimes
on
you
it.
need to ignore gut feelings.
I'm with Beckett. Sometimes I think it's good to trust them. And then I think there's times where you have a gut feeling about something. You kind of mull it over for 24 hours and realize that wasn't a gut feeling. That was over emotions.
For sure.
Well, I've had desires to do things that I knew were not the right decision.
Yeah, well, I think there's a difference between gut feeling and being very emotional in the moment. I mean, there's times where I get emotional and I'm like, let me type this out or let me say what I got to say. And then 24 hours, I sit on that and I may still feel that way, but I'm going to handle it in a way different manner.
For sure. I say lead with it. Just have it there objectively, because say you meet somebody and they immediately give you, like, the hair on your neck stands up. You're like, all right, clearly this person's shady at some way, but you have no proof of that. It's your first impression. That's your gut feeling on that. So I would keep that as like a way, an indicator, if you will, just to be like, all right, I'll stand back from this person.
I guess my question is, though, could that be wrong, though?
Well, for sure.
Could
but
gut
you're only
feeling
going
also
on,
be judgmental?
Well, you're going on past experiences. So if you've met a person similar to that or something, you have a feeling, you already have a predisposed disposition on them.
Interesting. I love it. One segment I do want to talk about, something new, we kind of delved into a little bit last year. I want to keep some missing people or missing persons cases here locally in the media. We're just a small town podcast, but I do want to try to keep these stories out in the news. There was a kid back when I was probably 8 or 9 named Maurice Jefferson. Now, Maurice Jefferson, I'm going to read you a little bit about his story. I urge everybody to Google this. If you know any information, if you can remember anything, let us know, let the police know. We're talking about the early to mid-'80s, some of these cases. Maurice Jefferson, 16-year-old Maurice, left his home in Fort Lauderdale, Florida on November 30th, 1983 to attend basketball practice at Dillard High School, where he attended school. It's been established that Maurice arrived at the Franklin Park basketball court that day, but never made it to practice. 2 teenage girls reported seeing Maurice being forced into an Oldsmobile by 2 unidentified persons, males, but this hasn't been confirmed. So there's a little bit of rumor about that, and that's also very, very tough. I could not say that word. Now, Maurice hasn't been seen since then. He left his wallet, his money, his ID at his grandma's house. At the time of his disappearance, he lived back and forth between his grandmother's house and his mother's home in Alabama. Maurice's grandmother still lives in the same house she used to share with Maurice and has kept the same phone number. I had talked to a woman doing some documentary about Maurice, and they're still very much wanting to keep his case in the public eye. But just Googling that case and so many other cases like that, I can't believe how many are here in South Florida. It's crazy.
It is crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I guess just because of the accessibility of Florida, like you can get to it from so many angles. You know what I'm saying? Like you have people, you have the islands surrounding us. You have people, moving down here from northern. Yeah, I think it's just a lot of people in this area.
Well, I wanted to encourage our audience, if you have a loved one that's been missing here locally, send us the email. We'll put it out there. Not to say anything's going to come of it, but the more you put it out there, you never know.
For sure.
The other case, Google the Rachel Hurley case as well. Those are 2 cases I'd like to focus on.
You have to wonder what the motives are in some of those cases, right? Like it, just weird.
A lot of it, I think, is sexual perversion, unfortunately. You see a lot of these people that are, they got this weird sex thing that's mixed with violence. And we've talked about it too. Is that something that's developed during your developmental years? I mean, if someone is raised up until 18 years of age and they had a great home, what are the chances of them becoming a violent maniac later on in their life? I think it's extremely low.
I would say so.
Right?
Yeah, I think that most of the time you can trace 1 or 2 particular incidences from people's childhood that triggered some kind of need, perverse need, that turned into like an obsession or a weird addiction.
So during that time of them growing.
Yeah, their formative years, unfortunately. And the thing is, a lot of things happen to people. People don't do it intentionally. They don't think that it's going to affect this person's life for the rest of their life. And one thing that may not affect me may affect Denny's.
For sure.
So you could have the same event happening to a couple different people, and it only affect one of those. So you just don't know. It's just, life is just full of circumstances and chance.
Do you guys like that segment? Kind of do a little spotlight on that?
Yeah,
Okay, cool. We'll keep it then. Very cool. We're also trying to get a hold of that doctor that delved way deep into the DoubleTree murders. I think we're going to have her on next week. We couldn't get her for this week, but next week we're going to do it. I think it's time for a little Denny's random facts. And Denny's, what do you got for us? Vicky will be grading you
Yes.
very harshly on each fact.
I know she's tough to impress.
She's great. Got to keep you honest, dog.
So I'm a person that does not really like spiders, but there is one spider that I did take fascination with, and that was a spider named after actor Harrison Ford. Did you know that he has a spider named after him?
No.
Well, he does. The spider, I'm going to do my best to pronounce this here, but Caliponia harrisonfordi is the name of the spider, and it's named after him, thanking him for narrating a documentary they did on a natural history museum in London, and they discovered the same species as he was doing that, and they named it after him. So it's kind of cool.
Okay.
Vicky, you don't look impressed. Beckett's on the computer. I'm not even.
I mean that was a C at best. I mean, like some of these facts, I like want more facts. You know what I'm saying? Like that one.
C, and I think she's being kind.
I thought we
Yeah,
had some
C minus.
fans of The Fugitive in here, but I guess not.
It was a pretty weak opener, Danny. So here we go.
All right, let's see if this one's better. I saw Beckett was on Snapchat while I was telling that one.
Are you still on Snapchat?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I did it for the joke.
Gotcha. I understand. I apologize.
Well, so, I mean, this is just a cool fact. Maybe some of you guys know this. I doubt it, but possibly. Approximately 70% of the Earth is covered in water. We all know this.
Thanks, Denny's, for mansplaining water.
But only 1% of the water is drinkable.
I think I actually heard something.
Not.
Well, so I'm breaking it down for you. Only
the crowd's turning on you.
Only 2.5% of water is fresh, but only 1% is accessible because the rest is frozen in glaciers.
Vicky does not look impressed whatsoever. Vicky, give
Do we
a.
need some third graders in here to come up with some facts?
Oh,
snap.
Oh, snap.
Vicky getting hard on the mic.
Come on, Denny's. You have set the bar like way up here.
All right. I was
on,
trying outside. I
come
put the
on.
feelers out and see where you guys are living.
Third podcast of the year. Denny's already dialing it in.
Get out of here. I got to feel where you guys are at. New year. All right, let's see. I found this one to be fun. We'll see what you guys think here, but the inventor of Vaseline ate 1 spoonful of Vaseline every single morning of his life after inventing it because he swore by it. You guys will think that's cool?
That it did what?
Well, so it isn't hazardous to eat, though it isn't recommended, but he actually
Made him more
cured
rude.
he had inflammation of the lungs, and they noticed that it did take it down. He attributed it to eating Vaseline every morning.
Vicky, what do you think? I mean, are we learning anything from this?
There has to be more science behind that. I need to know the rest of his diet and his other habits because, you know, my great-grandmother, she ate Rice Krispies and she lived to be 100. So I can't say that she only lived to be 100 because of Rice Krispies. So he didn't cure his lung thing with Vaseline.
Do you know?
sure,
Do you know what this segment reminds me of? I don't know if you guys have ever seen the beginning of 8 Mile with Eminem when he goes up to rap and he choke.
Get out of here.
Is it because of the hoodie?
Yeah, you are. You're the low budget 8 Mile right
I
now.
gotta stop
What's up, Rabbit?
I gotta stop living down here. Start living up here.
I'm just so used to your facts. You know, you come in with, and it's like, bam, you blow our minds, and
Just
it has
lay it
everything I
down.
need in that one statement. But these all leave me with other questions.
So are you saying usually he blows our minds, but tonight he just blows? I'm sorry, Denny's. He has joke jury tomorrow too, so he's
Yeah.
done a lot of writing over here.
It's been a long day.
All right,
Plus
you
we
know-
got Bob by your company.
Reboot right now. Rally, you got this with a great fact.
So this one's for the bird here. Americans eat nearly 100 acres of pizza every day. That's approximately 350 slices per second, which is approximately 251,770,000 pounds per year. That's approximately 3 billion pizzas sold in the U.S. each year. Kids between 3 and 11 prefer pizza over all other foods.
You know what? That fact was awesome. When I first heard it back in 2011.
Get out. This stat is from 2018.
No, I'm just kidding. Great job, Denny's.
A lot of numbers in there. I crammed a lot of numbers because I was skeptical what you guys would think of those other ones.
That's my favorite segment of the show, actually.
Couldn't tell.
So we've talked a little bit about the flat earthers out there. got this email. We have a clip to follow this email, so just keep that in mind. It says, "Dear Weird Whatever, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I have become a flat Earth believer. We have been told since we were young that the Earth is round. I know bitch boy Beckett will laugh this off, but you all need to look more into this. Check out this guy named Flat Earth Andrew. He was on the show Dudley and Bob, the Dudley and Bob show. He made a lot of great points. Please check out what he has to say. Listen to his theories and tell me you don't somewhat believe what he has to say. Sincerely, Kyle from the Pizzle. Denny's, hit me up."
The community is basically a bunch of free-thinking people who realize we've been indoctrinated from a young age with the whole spinning ball through TV, movies, just the culture. You know, it's just it is what we grew up with.
Yeah,
so
agreed.
We are now questioning that. You've got things like the P900, the Nikon camera that is shooting across the plane. It's bringing boats back over the horizon. That's actually one of the first things that just like blew my mind. You know, a friend of mine said people think the Earth is flat. I said that's crazy, and I went to try and debunk it. So basically, anybody who believes in the spinning ball is just somebody who has not tried to debunk flat Earth. And I mean, legitimately give it the good, you know,
the good YouTube watching,
the good scientific method, which is it observable? Does it match our observations? Does the official story match our observations?
Okay.
Jesus.
So
Furthermore,
a lot of faces.
Just go check out some YouTube.
A lot of faces, a lot of groans in the studio. Let's start with our skeptic, Mr. Beckett. What's your response? Because believe it or not, I'm getting emails from people who are believing that the Earth is flat. They're thinking that all of the history books and the science books and the news and the media, they're all lying. There's the conspiracy. I guess my question, and I'd like to hear your opinion, why would everyone lie about the Earth being flat?
They wouldn't. There's literally no motive you could come up with. No matter how drunk or high I get, you can't come up with a motive as to why people would have, like, what would be the motive of...
Is it possible the flat earthers think that there's not a conspiracy, they just think scientists and people have gotten it wrong? Humans get things wrong all the time. They act like they know. I mean, if you look, I mean, historically, humans have had theories for many, many years, and then they've had to retract it, saying, oh, yeah, we're right. Women aren't witches.
Yeah, well, I think everything starts off as a theory, as a hypothesis.
Yeah.
But sometimes those theories become something people really believe that's true.
For sure.
Because of culture.
So I get his argument, you know, that's what we've been told. And that's a good argument for anything, you know, because you should really question everything. But at the same time, like, what is the motive? The only thing I can think of is they've said it so long and now they can't go back. There's, like, no backsies now.
I don't know. They backseat on Pluto.
You're right. They dropped Pluto. But,
that was semantics.
Because
we weren't saying that Pluto didn't exist. We just weren't calling it a planet.
It's just no longer large enough.
Right?
Is Beckett and Vicky in a fight right now?
But you can You can fly far away from Earth or fly very high in the air or out of our atmosphere and clearly see it's round.
Yeah, I think if you do take even a hot air balloon up, I think you could see curvature to the...
When you look at a ship coming on the horizon, you can see it not coming over the edge of the Earth. You can see it coming over the curvature of the Earth.
I guess my question, too, would be, are flat earthers just attention seekers, or do they really feel like the Earth is flat?
Some people, you know, you've had beers with people or conversations with people, and they just want to argue with you about. What
does that mean? What are we talking about, Beckett?
They want to be contrarian.
Whatever, Beckett.
They do. They just want to be contrarian, and that's fine. Like there's
contrarian. That's such a Webster dictionary.
Oh, I need a scotch.
But it's totally true. I mean, it's one thing. It's not like it's a 50-50 debate, 60-40 debate. It's just like, at this point, settled science.
For sure.
I do find it... I'm sorry. I'm just cut you off. Go ahead.
They are low percentage as far as... But I do enjoy the movement because you should question stuff. You shouldn't just believe
You should
what
question
you're told.
stuff, but, you know, when he's like, you know, the guy's like, well, you know, you watch a lot of YouTube videos. Like, come on.
Well, I do find it odd that our educator on the show was the one kind of almost defending the flat earther. Sort of.
When?
Well, you're like, well, you know, Pluto, blah blah blah. They didn't.
No. I'm just because the flat Earth thing makes no sense to me. I mentioned it before. I've been to Montana, and you can actually see the curvature of the Earth if you look up at the sky. If it's flat, that means if this represents Earth, right? And this is it's flat. It's a straight line. I shouldn't be able to come back around. I shouldn't be able to circle back around
For sure.
if I'm going this. It just doesn't make any sense.
How pretty is Montana?
It's beautiful.
Oh gosh, I feel like you just go
Big
there
sky.
and you and your thoughts just kind of
Yeah.
lay with a horse.
And in the summer, because of where it's located, it doesn't get dark until like past midnight.
yeah, I mean, going out to Oregon, it's so weird living in Florida, South Florida, my entire life, and then you go somewhere that's nowhere like it. You feel like you're on a different planet.
Totally.
Every turn in Oregon, I was like, I would quiver at a mountain or there'd be a waterfall. It's just stuff you never see. It was amazing.
Well,
It
so
makes you think, Denny's. Makes you
Florida-
feel small.
Oh, it does. Florida's so flat and it's lush. And when I'm out in Colorado, there is no vegetation. It's so weird. It literally feels like you're on Mars.
And I love South Florida. I remember the first time I went away for college, I was gone for 3.5 months, and I hadn't been in South Florida for that long. And driving in, seeing all the palm trees again in the ocean, I was like, oh my gosh, it's beautiful here. But it's hot as balls as well.
In the summer, it just sucks.
It's really
Do you
hot
hate
in
it? Do you guys
summer.
hate South Florida in the summertime? I don't hate it.
There's a lot of places that are hot too. It's
Yeah.
not just Florida.
I
during
can-
the
We
summer.
don't hate it. We're just really annoyed. Everyone just walks
It's just
around with
rough.
like that bead of back sweat. you
And
know,
crack sweat.
Yeah, and you just walk
Nard
around.
sweat.
You're like running to the
Sack
car,
sweat.
and you have wet shoes
I
because
feel
it
like-
just downpoured.
I feel like me and Denny's has nard sweat. I feel like Beckett does not have nard
No,
sweat.
he
Yeah.
just glows.
Yeah, it's glowing. Yeah, I agree.
Ideal image.
Ideal image. Mr. Beckett, what did you bring in for your audio homework assignment?
So there's something that I was surprised I didn't know about or hear anything about, but today I was talking to someone about how these radio signals have been through history a way to communicate in espionage throughout time, and they send them over very rudimentary ways like VH handheld radios, because if you're a spy and you have something high tech, it's hard to deny that. And if you just can capture something that's encrypted in terms of a certain language or whatever, you have what's called plausible deniability, because you're like, oh, it's my car stereo. Like you turn it, or like a little handheld radio, you can like tune it, and there's encryption. Like for example, in World War II, we used Native Americans to communicate, the signalers, right? Signalers, in that it was hard. The Nazis and everything, they couldn't decode it, I believe is the story. They actually got a word at the White House recently about it. So this is just a little audio clip about how through different periods in history, not just the United States, multiple countries have used these radio waves to send signals and communicate in espionage.
Denny,
Undercover operations. Or perhaps just a world of fantasists, in the grip of a Cold War hangover, imagining it all, just to fulfill their big brotherly paranoia. Either way, what I'm about to show you is at the very least curious, and possibly very scary indeed. Ever since the height of the Cold War, radio enthusiasts across the globe started to notice strange, beguiling broadcasts on the outer limits of the band, anonymous transmissions that all had a similar shape to them. Each had a call sign, followed by sets and sets of numbers, usually in groups of 5. They are read aloud in disembodied, simulated voices, in languages ranging from English and Spanish to Czech and Chinese. Hour on hour, day after day, some so regular you could set your watch by them. They transmitted what people believed was code information, and became known to shortwave radio enthusiasts as the number stations.
That's pretty crazy, huh?
I do. I
and
think
you know
that-
me, I'm not the conspiracy theory guy, but these guys, like these nerds that sit at home and they got their
Totally.
radios, and they're picking this up on the, like he said, the outer bands, and they're in different countries. They've been in different periods of history, And like they said, it's like clockwork. Like, oh, 2 o'clock Monday, and they started to not necessarily understand what they were talking about, but started seeing certain patterns in it. No one knows what they are. So there's been documentaries, and I just started Googling it. I just thought it was really interesting. See what you guys thought.
Vicky, what do you think? Level of interest on that?
It was interesting, but the whole time I'm thinking how ineffective it would be if the person talking about it had like a Southern accent. It like draws you in because he has the upper class accent.
The British accent, I
You know?
clearly know what I'm talking about because I'm from
Wins.
England.
Yes.
No, British accents, they give credibility.
To everything.
They
Oh,
really do.
immediately.
And then every time there's a Bigfoot clip, I swear to God, Bigfoot's there. I said get.
Subtracts any credibility.
Exactly.
Anytime there's a Bigfoot or a UFO alien clip, it's always some.
I look
man.
at their name and I'm like, it sucks.
There's 4 names.
Yeah.
John Allen, Joe,
It's terrible.
Davidson,
Bubba.
the third.
You're right. We need a British man to find Bigfoot.
But I think it goes back to since the beginning of time, I think man's been trying to fool man or to find secret ways to communicate, you know, in whatever form. I just think it's always been there. We always need to have that secret code or that language that only you and one other person speaks.
Do you and your friend Bobby Joe have a code?
When we make fun of people, we have like names.
I will say that to me, we talk about soulmates a lot, and I've got a couple people that are guys that are my friends, close friends, like a Denny's, that there is a language you can speak with that person. You could, like, if me and Denny's went to a party, and Denny's is at the one end of the party, and I'm at the
Really?
other end, and something weird happens in the middle of that party, and we lock eyes. Just that locking of eyes, we've communicated. We know, and to me, that is the language of a soulmate.
Yeah, we do that a lot during faculty meetings.
Exactly. Yeah, me and Denny's do that a lot during every meeting. Do you have someone in your life like that, Beckett? Where you can, I'm talking about more, not romantic, but like a buddy, whether it's a girl or a guy, where you guys can communicate without actually talking.
Yeah, I think generally speaking. I mean, I don't know that I necessarily lock eyes from across the bar with
Because they might fall in love.
Beckett knows better.
Yeah, I mean, there's a definitely wavelengths, like Denise has said that, like energy and wavelengths, and I think that certain people participate in, and certain people have different understandings and background, and that's probably why they tend to gravitate towards each other in the beginning. So they pick up on certain things. You know, if someone's being hostile and they don't like confrontation, then those two people that become friends who avoid confrontation are already starting to feel ostracized from that situation, right? And they want to exit out that together. So I think that, just as an example, totally, explains those kind of feelings in terms of being mutual.
Friendship's an interesting thing. You can be born with a brother or a sister, blood related, and you may not have a bond with them like you have with somebody else that's, so tight. It's interesting because my mom had a friend where this woman was more than a sister, more than a friend almost. I mean, it was kind of like a soulmate to the point where they finish each other's thoughts, and that's a rare thing. But when you do find it, it's a unique, awesome thing.
Right.
I friendships is such a cool concept to me.
And what's crazy is that a lot of people don't understand. They may look at that other person and be like, how are you friends with them? Why is that person, why are you so close to them? But that's because you're the one that has that special connection.
Yeah.
And it means nothing to someone else, but that's just your person. That's
Yeah.
your
It's
go-to.
weird.
I feel like we all meet somebody in our lives that's just another level. You connect with them for some reason.
For
You're
sure.
just like, oh my gosh, I love that. I'd take a bullet for that person. And that's not everybody you meet.
Totally.
It's weird. And you wonder, is it emotionally something you needed in that moment? That's why you had that connection with that person? Or do you just get along? The DNA matches, baby.
Yeah, it could be anything. It could start off as an interest in them and then turn into, closeness. I think a lot of people, it's an old study, and I don't know, it has to be from probably 20 years ago, but they found that a lot of married couples that get married in high school have closely related last names. So, like, if they're a C and a D or an E and an F, because they sat near each other and the proximity, they wondered if that influenced just being around somebody long enough. Does that influence feelings of affection?
Yeah, okay. So let's say your daughter, Vicky, meets the man of her dreams and they fall madly in love. do you think that that was the universe that was already pre-written, or was that just a mere moment in time where the right things lined up? Because I think it's an interesting concept, soulmates, because I've gotten a lot of clapback from people, because I personally feel like you can have many soulmates out there.
Right.
Some people do not believe that. They feel like,
There's
yeah,
one
I was
and
born
done.
in this one county and I've lived here 21 years and I met my soulmate and that is the one. Is that person right? Am I right? Or are we both? It doesn't matter.
See, I think because I've talked before on the show that, and this is what happens like when I give a reading and I'm looking at a future event. That's future events based on what you are doing right now and the path that you're currently on. So in answer to your question, somebody somewhere knew that she would meet that person and that was going to be her soulmate. But if she had made different choices, she may not have ended up finding them. So I still think it's kind of within us, but I think someone that knows already what's going to happen.
Okay, you say someone already knows, almost kind of like there might be multiple someones out there. Do you believe there's multiple someones out there that are kind of saying, looking out for us, kind of?
Well, maybe.
When you say someone,
To me,
it almost sounds like...
I'm referring to more like the religious background, saying God or whatever you want to call. You know, in different religions, he's called different things. But I think there's a master plan up there, but we also have free will. So it may be her master plan to have met that person, but if she took a different turn, it would be a different person, and she never would have found them. So I know that sounds, I didn't really answer your question, but the answer to the question
Are you
is,
running for office, Vicky?
no, the answer is I think it's all about our choices.
Okay, Denny's.
That it's not necessarily destiny, it's our choices.
I'd like to hear your take on this.
Yeah, so I think when people find soulmates or whatever you want to call it, I think a lot of it is just that your core values, your core beliefs, things that for some reason make you happy or influence your decisions or what you strive for, whatever that is, you line up with another person. There's core things that line up that, like you said, you can't, it's invisible.
And
It's
not to cut you off, but don't you think too, emotionally, you have to, in that moment, because I think we have different periods of time where we're emotionally at different
Absolutely.
levels. Don't you have to be at the right emotional state for that?
Well, I have friends that I went to high school with, and through the magic of technology and Facebook, I can follow their lives without really having to talk to them. And I see a lot of them go in different directions that I imagined, you know, because I grew up with them. I went to school 4 or 5 years with them. So it's weird to see all of the different branches and paths people take. So going back to the soulmate thing, I'm just saying, like, if I was to go over to England and spend 2 years over there, I'm sure I would meet another person in a circle who I would consider my England soulmates. You know what I'm saying? Like, I
Sure.
think relative to where you are and the proximity of people that you meet, you can meet people that line up fundamentally with you.
I 110% agree with that. Not to say that when you meet your soulmate, let's say you meet a soulmate and you guys fall in love and you get married. I'm not saying there's 11 other soulmates out in the world you need to go try to find. I think once you find a soulmate and you guys are hitting it off, you know, you lock it down.
Well, there's aspirin, there's Aleve, there's Motrin, and they all cure your headache. Like, it serves the purpose, the goal, whatever. So I agree. Like, you can find your utopia of happiness, right, in another person. But I don't think it's just one person. It's finding a person that really kind of you integrate really well with, and I think it checks all your boxes and you're fulfilled.
Let's get deep real quick. Vicky, what's your idea of happiness? What makes Vicky happy? If Vicky could have a path of happiness, what would that be?
In a relationship or in life?
just the overall
The scheme.
buffet, baby. You got all these dishes. Let's mix it all together.
Overall, I would want enough money to not have to worry about bills, but I don't have to be rich. I want the freedom to do what makes me happy.
So, meaning, if you are doing something and a boss says you can't do that, you have the power to be, all right, screw you. I don't give a
Right,
shit.
right.
I love that. I agree with that. Gosh, it's nice.
That's pretty much it.
I hear you. To not be held down, to be able to make your own mistakes and or prosper and live your life. Okay, Becca, what's your idea of happiness?
I think it's just being fulfilled.
That's too generic.
It's too generic.
Yeah.
There's no loopholes, Becca.
I just want to smile. No, give us some specifics. What makes what would make you happy? She just nailed
Brian
it.
Beckett?
She doesn't want to be held down by the man. She doesn't want to. She wants to be able to have money to spend.
I would
live
say,
her life. She wants to be human. Damn it.
I would say having a life work that I'm passionate about would be the most that's basically my idea of being fulfilled, is having a life's work that I'm passionate about. And I much rather live a really amazing life to the age of 50 than a really mediocre life to the age of 100.
So what's your
sense.
passion though? Like that passionate thing.
Yeah, what
that
makes
strive?
Beckett tick, baby?
I'm still looking for something. Like, I wish that I've taken tests or whatever, something I know things that I enjoy. Like, I enjoy.
Okay, what?
I'm an animal lover. I love doing things that make a difference. Like, one of the things that have caused me to dance around the edges of real estate is I just didn't really feel fulfilled. It was
good money, probably.
I had great first world problems, and I reached the top of the mountain, and then I was kind of like, there's got to be more to life than just selling homes in Wellington.
And you can make a good living and not love what you do.
I had a gorgeous girlfriend. She was successful. She was my business partner. We were making great money. Like, yeah, and just like, and maybe and I sometimes get mad at myself. I'm like, why wasn't that good enough? Like, that's great. Like, on paper, it's great.
That's
right?
Western living happiness. That's the American dream happiness.
Elaborate on that, Denny's.
Is that your happiness, Beckett?
No, it's not. Because I think I have a little bit internal hippie, and I rather go out, and some of my best times were when I couldn't afford things. Like, I had to backpack through Europe in college, and like I had to sleep on a train because I couldn't afford a hotel. You know, like at night we took the red eye, and like those were some of the best times. You know, at times when I was kicking ass in real estate, I was like, I'm in this relationship. There's no passion. I'm dealing with these clients. I don't even want to like sell it. I'm just like kind of like waking up and going through the motions every day and dealing with people that I don't want to deal with. Like, it's just horrible.
Elaborate on the Western happiness, because I hear you just in our personal conversations talking about this a lot. You really stand by this.
Well, because I mean, it's the American dream. You get money. You're the top of the food chain. You own your own company. You have the house. You have the family, and then your family grows on, and that's the dream. That if you look across the board at what people want to
Is it the dream for everybody, though? Because, I mean, whoever's
Definitely
speaking
not.
for that dream, I don't know if that's because you say that to some people, and they're like, that sounds like a nightmare. That's not the dream for everybody.
For sure. I'm saying mainly, I use that generically, the American dream. But yeah, I mean, to have money, to be able to do what you want and raise a family, that's what people want. They want the security and the comfort. But does everybody want that? That's the generic answer. Across the board, that is one of the most popular. People just want money and to be comfortable and to be their own boss.
Well, I think, too, what you're talking about, the American dream, some people feel pressure about that. And they think once they get age 30, and I've seen people in their early 30s start to freak out, going, "Oh my gosh, I'm not married yet. I don't have any kids. I don't have that house. I don't have that American dream." And they freak out, and then they marry somebody on a whim because they think they need to be at that place right there. Kind of messes with people's friggin' minds, man.
I think it's pretty crazy how much pressure they put on kids to get out of high school and to go to college and immediately pursue a career. Like, all right, so think about how many times you change your mind through your entire life, or how many times you've changed like styles, opinions. You used to hate olives, now you love olives. So many things change.
I've never loved olives.
I hate olives.
I hate
so
those
much.
things.
I won't
Don't
use
get
that
me started.
I won't use that example ever again. So, but just think about how your tastes have changed so many times. How do they
Fruit
expect
of the
you
gods.
to make a ambrosia would be the food of the gods. How are you supposed to ever make that decision at the age of 18, which they even say your brain's not fully developed until you're 25? You have to make all these crazy decisions. I feel like a lot of people, they should have a system, and this is just, I know nothing about the education system, just only going through it the once, but like, it should be a system that allows you to stem off knowing from a young age how different people learn, and then be able to go into a career early instead of continuing school if that's not your future desire, or to specifically fall into something you're more, interested in.
No,
I'm not
Well,
trying
they
to
used
be-
to have vocational schools
Yeah,
where
the
it was more
education-
designed that way.
The education system, let me start it on.
It's only designed to get you through it and onward. I mean, a lot of it, and I hear about all the fundings and all that stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of politics involved in the school system.
I'm getting
so-
a terminal degree in business, and no one ever taught me to balance my checkbook. Like, there's no functionality. It's it's set up for the industrial age back in the day.
For sure, it needs to.
And the actual end goal isn't in mind, in my opinion, in terms of education. Because you're 100% right. Out of high school, a lot of times it makes sense for someone to go right into something that's more trade vocational, and we try to shove this thing down kids' throats, make them get student debt, which is one of our hugest problems in this country with people entering the workforce and being strapped with debt as soon as they start the game, so to speak. And you bring someone out and just like teach them how to be a mechanic, teach them how to code.
Coding could be the most valuable thing anyone can learn because everything's going to be designed through computers. Computers are going to be building everything.
Totally.
I do want to kind of turn the.
I think Denny's and I just got on a soapbox.
I caught up on some sleep. Totally just.
Just so you know, there are some high schools that still offer the mechanic program and things like that. So I don't know if I shout out names, but there are high schools that offer multiple programs in the same high school. You can do pre-med, and you can also do auto mechanics in the same high school.
That's awesome.
So
That's what I'm saying. It's just they just,
still have it out there.
The system's just weird.
The system.
The man.
Get it, Denny's. I
The
agree.
machine.
Vicky, there's some bullshit going on at my place. Now, I get people. I would say 30% of our audience in the KVJ show thinks I go on the air and make up shit to try to move the needle. I've got legit bullshit going on at my house right now where it's awful. Something's kicked up ever since my dad got back from Texas and then I came back from Oregon. It's been awful. Shit's missing. I feel like someone's poking me and I'm waking up in the bed. I'm hearing weird shit constantly. I would like to do a full-on EVP, but I also want to know why all of a sudden does this activity happen? I'm not lying. This is really happening. It's legit screwing me over with my sleep. I'm not sleeping at all right now.
There could be a couple theories. Number one, either you or your father, when you went away, you got a tag-along that came back. And the tag-along wants attention, and they're doing things to get attention.
Why would a tag-along jump on me in Oregon? Is that because I'm open to it?
Yeah, I mean, because like I said, you have great potential when it comes to ability, and they can see that. And so you could have just had somebody tag along. While you were gone, while either one of you were gone, something else that wasn't normally in your place could have said, oh, it's nice and quiet here. Let me move in. And they could have moved in. And then when people came back, they're like, it's not quiet here anymore. And they're, kind of showing their behind now.
Yeah, I mean, it was the other night, and I just heard Chewy started barking, and I just heard out in the kitchen area, which it sounded like someone was slamming a door. I mean, it sounded like someone was in my place. I went downstairs. There was nothing there. Chewy's barking, and it's just silence. It's very creepy.
Sure, it's not neighbors having sex.
There's not. There's no one living next door. And I know what it sounds like outside, and I know what it sounds like inside. And I get it. I understand people think I'm lying or they think I'm high or drunk. I understand that. I've owned it. I accept that. I can tell you one-on-one.
Is it happening like every night consistently?
The last 10 days, we're the 23rd. I would say the last 15 days. It's been just kind of shitty. I have not been sleeping at all. But I would like to do what we had talked about last week. We need to get in there and do something about it because my dad doesn't understand it. He doesn't know what's going on. But Chewy's barking. Chewy's going crazy. And it's been since I've came back from Oregon.
So it's very consistent. So
It's
more than
very
likely
consistent,
I'd
yeah.
experience something if I were there.
I would bet anything on it that you would experience something there.
All right. Well, it's something. I mean, I would want to stay longer than what we, did that other time. Is there a certain time of night that
You can come over
happen?
anytime you want to.
Okay.
Anytime you want.
All right. Just let's set a date then, because especially if it's been consistent. So what I could do is I could be in there for a while and see if it's going to go ahead and happen while I'm in there. And then I could also leave for a little bit, but leave the equipment to see if it chooses to interact once I've left.
Have you gotten any good EVPs lately? And what's an EVP for any of our new listeners here?
Electronic voice phenomena is when we have an investigation, we have just a regular digital recorder, and we ask questions, and then we have spirit voices. I don't know if I mentioned the one in my house, but 2 investigators, they were in my bedroom, and before the investigator introduced himself, I have a man's voice that says Daryl. Well, the investigator's name was Daryl. So didn't know if that, if it was somebody that knew him. And then he said, do you know the person whose room this is? And I have an EVP of a man that says, I don't know her. So those were like my 2 best ones. They were pretty clear. Okay.
I love it.
But what I found is that I realized the other day, I had like an aha moment. We had a case like 3 months ago, and we also got an EVP of someone that said Daryl. And it didn't hit me because it was like 3 months ago that maybe there's something following one of my investigators.
Is it possible they're just a big fan of Daryl Hall and John Oates?
Possibly.
By the way, kids, Google Daryl Hall and John Oates. They have a great collection.
Oh, I'm telling you, I'm so proud because my daughter, she knows like all the stuff from the 70s, 80s. You will hear all kinds of music coming from upstairs. That's where her room is.
Love
she
it.
is so eclectic with her music tastes. I totally
Beckett,
love that.
if you're not listening to Hall and Oates before you go out on the weekend, you're doing it wrong. Can I get an amen on that?
I haven't been.
Amen.
We actually had an EVP. Speaking of Hall and Oates, we had one. We were at a location, and I was being a little more confrontational because I had been to this place multiple times, and it was a nasty male spirit, and we were using an angel box. And an angel box is like a spirit box, only it goes a little slower through the stations. And so I said something kind of confrontational. I'm like, what, you're not going to show yourself to me? And it cuts to the Hall & Oates, and it says, you're a bitch girl.
Oh.
Just that clip of the song. And it stayed on that. It says, you're a bitch girl. And then it went
Stop it.
scanning again.
That's pretty cool.
That was cool.
I love that,
Yeah.
Vicky. Good shit. We should do a segment, Vicky's Creepy Stories. I love it. One thing I did want to talk about. So there was a missing girl, a Jane Doe from back in the 80s, and DNA found out who she was, recognized her, got a hold of her family. And if I was a murderer right now, I would be so afraid because the DNA and the Ancestry.com, all that stuff is turning over on people big time. People who thought they were getting away with murder are now going down, baby. And it's awesome. I love it. Have you seen some of these stories out there?
It's like a reckoning.
It is. Oh, you gotta love it. Imagine being a family member and your loved one's been missing or dead since the 70s, and you finally get answers. You probably thought you're never gonna get answers ever.
Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is back in the day, there used to be, in certain states, a statute of limitations on murder. Now there's not.
Thank God.
But back in the day, there were certain states where, if you didn't catch them within 5 or 10 years, you couldn't serve time for it.
What would
And
be
then
the
they got
point of
rid of
that? That's crazy. Like, why would you put a statute to limitations on murder?
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
crazy.
there's certain things that should not have. I mean,
Maybe
murder.
because-
If you've been proven to be a rapist and they find out, you should. It doesn't matter how long ago that happened. You should go down.
Maybe it's because back then they didn't have as much evidence. So they think the further time you get from the crime,
The less
harder
likely.
it was, to actually prove it. Nowadays, it's actually the opposite
For
because
sure.
we can go ahead and do DNA
Right.
and stuff. But maybe that's why they're like, oh, that was 10 years ago. You're not going to, that person didn't really remember that correctly or this, that, and the other.
Well, they're catching people on a sweater fiber that they wore from like 1987. How crazy is that? And then they have the person confess. They go, "We've got it all. We've got the DNA, blah blah blah," and then they confess to the crime.
Yeah.
That's
That's
amazing.
awesome.
That documentary, what was it on HBO? Jinx?
Yeah, that's so
crazy.
friggin' good, man. What a twist ending. I mean,
What a twist.
that is the best kind of programming because it's got an M. Night Shyamalan ending and it's real.
It's real, but you know how that supposedly came to light, like in terms of them making the documentary, right?
So it's The Jinx on HBO. Anybody that wants to watch a good documentary
It's
that's
amazing.
got twists and
turns and everything.
Totally watch the Jinx.
The guy was really smart, like crazy smart. I've dated girls like that, crazy smart, right? And what happened, as it was explained to me, is that they did all of these things in terms of making a documentary, and they were trying to let him have his say and do whatever. And he was in later life, and there was all these weird murders that he was like somehow involved or close to the person and then accused of it, but they could never pin him on it, and he always got off of it in different states, different situations. And they finished making the documentary, and they confronted him by a handwriting expert of a ransom letter that they found in a letter. It was like this whole huge epiphany. And the guy who was making the documentary had got to a point where he actually kind of liked the guy, but he found this and then was nervous to confront him with the guy. And the guy went to the bathroom afterwards and came back. They shook hands, said bye, whatever, and left. It wasn't until they were editing it, his mic was still hot, and they didn't know this at the time because they didn't have like a live feed, whatever.
I kind of feel like you're gonna spoil it though.
I should not tell people.
Yeah, you're giving too much, man.
Okay.
I mean, this is such a good documentary.
Okay,
Yeah, no, I'm not.
So I just
I'm not
gave it
trying
a
to be
good
a
plug.
dick. I'm just saying it's so good. And if you're watching it, I don't think you should give that. That's the M. Night Shyamalan.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah. It's just very good.
It's great.
Alright.
Yeah, if you like murder stuff, and it just seems like murder specials are. There's murder specials galore. I don't feel like such a freak anymore because since I was a kid, I have been fascinated by watching murder specials.
Didn't you mention one that's supposed to drop tomorrow?
There is one tomorrow. So I'm conflicted about this. I'm always on the air saying we shouldn't be, glorifying serial killers. But then I'm like, I really want to see the Ted Bundy special on Netflix. It's supposed to be really good. If you are someone that's followed the Ted Bundy cases, these are all tapes that have been that's never been heard before, and I've heard every one of his tapes, and they're very creepy. But these are unreleased tapes of his murders and his thoughts. Again, it goes back to: are we glorifying these serial killers? And the answer is yes, we are. You're giving a Netflix special to Ted Bundy. Change my perspective.
Well, but it's very satisfying because he fries for it at the end. So it would be different.
But
if
it's a
you were-
movie at that point, though. The bad guy gets it in the end, and we're cheering for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but he
It's
dies.
entertainment.
But he dies. That to me, it's a little more than if the person were at large and nobody found it and you're glorifying them. But hey, the bottom line is he fried for all of it.
But don't you think there's murderers out there that, let's say they're loners, they've never had a connection, they've never found their purpose, they feel like they are just so isolated. When they go on their killing spree or do whatever they do that's heinous and horrible, don't you think in the back of their mind or even in the front of their mind, they're thinking, you know what? No one's going to love me in my regular life, but when I commit these murders, there's going to be a special about me. I'm going to be infamous. I'm going to have documentaries made about me. You know what? I'll be rotting in prison, but I'm rotting in prison with documentaries and notoriety, and most people don't die with that. You don't think some people
There's some.
go into that world knowing? I mean, I'm not saying that they also don't have the feeling they want to kill and they can't control that, but there's also an ego part of that to go in. Like the BTK, that guy relished in talking about his murders and being caught.
taunt the police.
He's in the courtroom just glowing about what he did. You don't think he loves the fact he has cameras on him? There's specials about him. I mean, in a sense, I'm over here condemning it, but I'm part of the problem.
Yeah. That's how terrorists feel. Terrorists feel like they're going to have some reward, whether it's notoriety in their influence group back in their home country, the 60 virgins they get supposedly when they get to their heaven, whatever. Like that's like the gold at the end of the rainbow, whether they die or get arrested or whatever. It's a big problem. And the fact that the way our society is going with like media and stuff like that, it's almost more coveted to have that celebrity, whether it's bad or good. People want celebrity. They want to stick out from like the herd of sheep.
It's just interesting to be. It's one thing to watch it, but then it's another thing to go on the air and promote it, which I am doing. But it is fascinating. I am so completely torn by it.
Even the media is conflicted. I've seen a lot of the media channels have said that we're not going to say their name. We're not going to show his picture.
I
and say
get.
his name.
I totally get that. I understand that. But then it gets to a point where things have gone on for so long. For example, Billy the Kid. he was a known murderer, but you talk about him because it was so far removed from today's society. It's not as triggering as somebody
Now
that
he's like cool.
well, then someone that shoots up a school. You know what I mean? If someone shoots up a school, you don't want. I feel like you don't want to put that name out there.
Absolutely.
But then you have Ted Bundy, who I'm talking about and saying his name. What's the difference? We're talking semantics here, baby.
How come it's so often like the mass shooters, the weird serial killers? How come it's always like weird white dudes? Doesn't it seem like there's like an unusual proportion of males, number one.
Well, yeah.
18 to 35, number two. White dudes, number three. Like, that seems to be like...
Well, is it... I guess my question would be, to do your research, is it every single time a white dude? Because that's a pretty blanket statement, because I know for a fact that it's not always a white dude.
Not always,
although,
just
now,
unusual
what are you talking? Are you
correlation.
talking about mass shootings? Are you talking about serial killings? Because we talked about
mass
a lot.
shootings, serial
It
killers.
applies to serial killings too. If you go and look at the statistics, I mean, Florida. I mean, we had one of the few female serial killers, but and then there was the African American who was killing the boys in Atlanta. I don't know his name.
Williams.
So, but if you look at it statistically, if we pulled him up, I'm sure you're going to find that his statistic is correct. It's going to be white males between a certain age.
Could be majority population too, though.
Well, go ahead and
Yeah.
extend on that.
Well, I'm just saying by population, if there's more white people, it's more likely going to be a.
And I'm just asking because I don't know the stats. It's a blanket statement to say this or that. I want to know.
sure,
I want to
for
know
sure.
for a fact because I
But
can already hear
going
emails.
back to the notoriety and them going for that, I just saw a clip before I came here of Manson, and it was a clip when he was saying, "Oh, I'm so famous now. Wait till I die. I'm going to be even more famous."
Well, that's just it, though. I mean, it's a hard conversation to have because we like talking about this stuff. You know what I mean? But in a sense, when you do have publicity around something and you have hype, a little Hollywood, it does kind of. I mean, we've talked about it before.
Well,
Zac Efron's playing Ted Bundy. You
Totally.
can't get any more Hollywood than that.
But Hollywood can make things cool. They can make it look however they want that film to look. Because look at Narcos, that glorifies.
It does. We've gotten a lot of shit about Narcos. I did the
He was
the
a
bit.
bad man.
Well, I did the bit Pablo Escobar where I was drinking on the air, and majority of the people loved it, and then there's always 20% of people you're glorifying it. You're a bad person, and I mean, when you get comments like that, I think people sometimes think we don't read those comments and we don't think about them. We read those. We think about that. We totally put that through the filter. And do they have a point? They may do.
Just some quick Googling information. It says that what you're saying, Jay Bird, is correct, that it's the media that hypes the Caucasian murders typically more often because they're more high profile, but statistically it's not necessarily the case.
Another controversial thing that I talk about that shouldn't be controversial, and I get so much shit about it, is when I talk about how the media does have an agenda. Now, I am coming from no political standpoint whatsoever. I feel like I'm a person that's in the middle. And I know a lot of people in the media say they're in the middle because they don't want to get the shit.
Pick a side, Bird.
Exactly. But I'm not about trying to pick a side. I try not to be political.
For
but
sure.
there is an agenda that some media outlets have. There just is. And it's amazing just by saying that, the shit that I get calling me either a Republican or a Democrat. It's amazing to be called both parties.
Right.
And when I say that statement, I am not at all talking political. I am just saying there are certain publications that are trying to make people want to hate other people. They're trying to keep us annoyed with each other, and I don't like that shit. I don't fucking like it. I'm sorry.
It's hate fuel.
Yeah, it's hate fuel, and I like to call that shit out. There's times where you need to call shit out, and then there's times where you're putting gasoline on a fire just to get people angry, upset, worried, pissed off, and it's horseshit.
Yep.
It's horseshit.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
And it's bleeding into our culture.
Yeah, it's because they're rated. If that wasn't a factor, they wouldn't have to come up with the craziest stuff ever. Everybody's in intense competition to outdo the other people.
It's all about the clicks, baby.
That's what-
That's what it's about.
If it bleeds, it leads.
That's what they taught me in journal. That's the first thing they taught me in journalism class. If it bleeds, it leads. Meaning, no matter what's going on, if it's death, mayhem, whatever,
Salacious.
that's the best thing you got to be talking about.
100%.
Well, what's weird about social media is that it's put like almost a value on every single person. It literally, you see how many people follow you, and people use that as either to transpose into money or to transpose into their image.
It's social
So-
equity.
Well, think about it. It used to only be celebrity, people on television, people in movies, people in radio, people in music that would get the spotlight. Now anyone can have the spotlight. So now they're getting the pressures that come with showbiz as well.
It's such a great episode, Black Mirror. That one episode
It's a
where
fantastic episode.
I forget the name of it, but it's all about social media and everybody you come across. I won't spoil the ending like Beckett did for that documentary.
You stopped me
so
before
at
I
the
did.
So at the end, he left his microphone on.
But this one Black Mirror episode, it's so good. It's really probably based, I'd say, 15 to 20 years from now. And
Near
it's all,
future.
Yeah. Do you know the episode I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
It's all about social media and
It's called Nosedive.
Nosedive.
Oh.
Please watch that episode. If you've never seen Black Mirror as a series, just watch that episode. That's the one that got me hooked. I
Yeah.
loved it because it really does. It's kind of a cautionary tale of
100%.
what we are living in right now. We're there, but we're not quite there to that episode. But we are friggin' close,
We are
baby.
close.
Where everything's about likes and shares and your rating, and that's why I don't trust Yelp. You don't think
Yeah.
there's son of a bitches going on Yelp, bringing people down
Everybody's got an
just for
agenda.
a personal
Agenda.
being
Just like-
vindictive and an asshole? Of course.
Totally. Or as a joke.
Yeah.
Maybe they know somebody that works there.
It's crazy. I do want to end the podcast on this one because we talked about the R. Kelly thing, and I thought very interesting with you, Vicky, saying you love R. Kelly. You're gonna probably still listen
Music.
to the
The
music. Yes, let me preface that.
Yeah.
Got an email from Tina who says, "Hey guys, I still listen to Michael Jackson music, but when it comes to R. Kelly, I cannot listen to his music. I have deleted his music from my iTunes account completely. My reasoning is based on being a survivor of rape. I did watch the documentary and I felt disgusted. I did think he was a talented artist, but I don't see him in the same way I once did. I don't respect Chris Brown at all. I have shared my story of rape on the Regular Show podcast at the time of the Bill Cosby stuff. I was a huge fan of him, and now I think he's a disgusting human being. Bigfoot is real, Tina." Just interesting. I wanted to read that email because we did throw that out to everybody. If you loved R. Kelly and you're watching that documentary, it's tough. I mean, music's a thing where if you love music and that's your thing, you are caught in one of those dilemmas. And some people, I got a few emails that I'm not going to read. You guys are fucking snowflakes. It's just a song. Who gives a shit? Separate the art from the person. And I see that perspective too. I see the perspective of Tina who emailed us. I'd like to get your opinion, Vicky, because you were the one that sasaid that you are still going to listen to R. Kelly music.
No, I said I was on the fence about
Gotcha,
it.
my
Probably
bad.
I wouldn't. I said I would still watch Woody Allen.
Understood. Sorry.
'Cause it depends on, my passion for the artist.
I get it. And that's really what it comes down to.
That's what
sure.
it is.
The passion, how much do you like that artist? And are you a person that's going to publicly be, I'm not going to listen, I'm not going to listen, and then quietly you're listening? Because if you are listening, just don't go out there and say you're not listening. That's my whole thing.
Right, and that's what I said. I called myself a hypocrite because I know there's stuff out there about Woody Allen, and I'm still going to watch his movies. I'm straight up. I love the movies.
No matter what, if you found out he was the worst person ever, you'd still watch
I'd
his.
still watch the movies.
She loves that Annie Hall, man.
Denny's?
So I think, so the music definitely influences you, but also the situation that the person's in. So did she say she still listens to Michael Jackson?
She does. She says she
So-
still listens to Michael Jackson, but
That doesn't trigger something. You know?
exactly. It's weird too what you get clapback or emails or whatever social media is calling hate. It's always, you can laugh at 9 out of the 10 things someone's saying, but as soon as it's something that hits you right
Everybody's
in the
got
feels,
something,
you're
yeah.
like, fuck Beckett. He's talking about some born ass shit. No, I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding.
But everybody's got that
totally
thing.
kidding.
Robot
I
sex.
thought the coding was great. I'm just kidding.
But everybody's got that thing. Like,
but everyone's got that thing.
Totally.
Well, it's weird. Kidding aside, the robot sex thing, I actually get hate email about that.
Really?
I do. Quit talking about robot sex stuff. People don't want to hear that. And then I'll get people that say, I love the robot sex talk. So you never know, man. It's so fickle out there.
You never know. Let me ask you a little question, because I love extreme analogies to like make my brain think different ways. Say there was a cure. I think maybe I brought this up last episode. Say there was a cure to cancer created by, and I don't know if I'm going to say benefited by, but created by one of the worst human beings ever. Would you use the cure for cancer to cure cancer for yourself or someone that you love?
Vicky, you're a mother. You're a nurturer.
Yeah, for the greater good.
But this person's the worst person ever. I mean, just killing.
So the obvious answer is yes, you would. Like, I think most people would say yes. I don't care if Hitler created the cure to cancer. I'm going to use the cure to cancer to cure my mom, loved one's wife's cancer, whatever.
Would you, Vicky?
Yeah.
Yeah, of
Denny's?
course.
Well, so it depends. If it's currently happening, are we funding it to happen, knowing it's unethical?
Great
or
question.
Did it happen in the past, and now we have, the research they did, and why waste that research since people had to die for it?
So
Very good
R.
point.
Kelly's dead, passed away. All the money's getting not to him, not to any of his loved ones. Now, is it okay? Is it benign enough to listen to his music? That's kind of like the bridge, maybe too
I hear
far.
what you're
I'm trying to,
saying.
you know what I mean? Because it makes you feel good. You're depressed. Like, there's all kinds of studies on how music can have a certain, effect on your mood and whatever. Do you just say, like, I don't care how great that song was. I don't care how great it made me feel. That guy was a dick. I don't care if he's alive or not anymore. Like, I'm not going to listen to it.
Well, so it wasn't until we started civilizing, I'd say, which is relatively recent in human history. I'd say like the last 200 years we've really been cultivating, making sure everybody's comfortable and accommodated and such. But to me,
it would be like that old saying, you're cutting off your nose to spite your face. If you have a cure for cancer that's going to save millions of people, I would use that, and I would just ignore who created it. I mean...
It's terrible and it's unethical, but if it happened, why let it go in vain?
Something to ponder, something.
It's tough. Those ethic questions are tough.
Yeah.
Something to think about.
And I'm an animal lover, so what if something happened that was tested on animals? And I was like, I don't
Like
really...
everything up until
Right.
maybe not.
Yeah, ask rats and mice how they feel about testing.
Right.
Everything
Exactly.
that's ever been tested has been tested on a mice.
For
mouse.
real, they really exist to be tested on. It's pretty awful.
If you're born a mouse, you're like, shit, man, this sucks.
Well, now
Unless you're either going to be tested or you're just straight out in a field.
Well, I guess you could say with genetic modifications. We're genetically modifying plants, genetically modifying animals, and obviously they're trying to make humans.
They just did it in China, right? The guy didn't tell anyone. He's just surprised. Here's 2 twins that are genetically modified, and I think
Is that unethical though?
they're impervious to HIV. I think.
So they're bulletproof on HIV?
Yeah.
Wow.
So there's a book.
That's like a video game.
Right.
It is. It's like going in there and, okay, I'm going to make sure my stamina is...
Well, here's what's weird. There's a book called Brave New World. I believe they made a film adaptation with Ethan Hawke called Gattaca. You can check it out. But anyway, in the future, humans are genetically created. Parents go to a facility, tell the doctor what they want, and then they get a child exactly how they want it. Everyone's level 10 on everything.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. The catch is people are still born the natural way, and they're thought of as a lesser group of people because they're not perfect.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
So, I mean-
I like it, Denny's.
Just something to ponder. But it just
is.
shows that humans are weird, man.
No,
Like,
I
there
know.
has to be, some sort of caste system.
And nothing's
Humans
ever good enough.
Nothing's
ever good enough.
There's no finish line. There
Yeah.
really isn't. If you seek that, it's going to be tough on you. You just got to take the happiness as you get it, the moments.
I think that's a good place to stop. I'm going to go back to my podcast voice. And that was great. That was
Close
good.
it down.
Good contributions. That was awesome. No, thank you, everybody, for listening. If you can, please help us out. Share our podcast. Tell a friend. If you see a Reddit thread, hey, what podcast would be good to listen to? Put it in there. We would love the support. Thank you for everyone who's been listening. We love you all. And Bigfoot is real. Oh, and follow us at Jason KVJ on Instagram. And then we also have, what's our weird and whatever? It's at
Weird and Whatever.
It's at Weird and
Yeah,
Whatever.
yeah, yeah.
Perfect. At Jason KVJ at Weird and Whatever on our Instagram. Thank you guys. We love you all. Bigfoot is real.
What was that? What's that sound? It's aliens and they're living in your town.